Okay, if I can have everyone's attention, our race winner driver is on his way in, but let's go ahead and start. We have our team owner, Richard Childress, and crew chief, Slugger Labbe. The winner of today's 18th annual Brickyard 400, presented by BigMachineRecords.com, is Paul Menard, driver of the number 27 Nibco Menard Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. Slugger, just talk about the ebb and flow of this race. A lot of strategy there towards the end. A heck of a brickyard today that we witnessed. And talk about getting that 27 car to victory lane here.
It was a neat day for sure. You know, we pitted on lap 35 and we had a pit road penalty. The tire changer didn't get the tire back and he fell down and they penalized us. From that point on, we really stretched our fuel. We went 34 laps then to stretch our fuel, and the caution come out 8 laps later. So we were fortunate enough to stay out and really understand what our car was going to do. But it goes back to Saturday. We made a 22-lap run straight in practice and got a really good fuel mileage check, and we knew where we were going to be at. So we knew with 35 to go, it was a gamble that we were willing to take. And you know, we had a good meeting on Monday, myself, Richie, and Richie Gilmore and all the guys, and we said, look, guys, if we're going to make the chase, we're going to have to get risky. It seems to be a trend in the Cup Series this year is that people take gambles on pit road. So it was our turn to get aggressive, and I told Paul he had to support me, and he supported 100% today 3 different times. He had an occasion where he could have said, no, I don't want to do that, but he did, and fortunately it worked out. But just to be here and go from the highs, you know, we left pit road running 3rd, and then got penalized, and we're running 38th. So that was a big emotion, and just to work our way through it and not lose our cool and to come up with a good plan and to win the race is very fortunate.
Thank you, Slugger, and team owner Richard Childress. Richard, certainly a big win for your racing team and your racing organization, as now Paul has moved up to 14th in points, and with the win and the new wild card berth, if we set the chase field right now tonight, Paul Menard would be in the chase.
Yeah, you know, I'm just so proud of that whole Menard's team. You know, I caught a lot of flack back early last year when we decided to go with 4 teams, and I've been watching Paul ever since he won the nationwide race, and you know, he doesn't tear equipment up. He's consistent. He's really good. Got a cool head on him in all situations. I knew if the right situation come along, we'd win, and to get Slugger to come over and John Menard to support us and help us get Slugger and a couple of the engineers, I think that was a big jump going in on a 4th team, and couldn't be prouder of everyone at RCR. Our ECR engines ran great today. They got the fuel mileage. We really got chewed out last week for not getting fuel mileage, but got the fuel mileage today and proud of them, and couldn't be prouder for the Menard family. John's been here for many, many years, and I think we even had a car here one year at Indy, and I think Robbie drove it, if I'm not mistaken, and for him to win and to win here at Indy and to win with his son, I couldn't be prouder.
Thank you very much, and I might ask John Menard. John, if you wouldn't mind coming on up, I think these folks would like to hear from you as well, and we'll hear from Paul here momentarily. So kind of doing this on the fly here, but certainly, John, you've done a lot for the sport of motorsports, and certainly your thoughts about the victory today.
Well, I wonder where that kid of mine is.
I think he's still doing interviews.
He's still probably doing interviews. Cash in the check. He took the money and ran, I think. This is just great. I mean, you know, this is Paul's day, but in a way, it's our whole family has been at the Speedway for so long, and you know, we've all tried very hard. Paul came down here as a very little guy. I remember smuggling him into the garage because he was too young to be in there, and you know, he'd be sitting on the workbench back there behaving himself. He had to keep quiet, or the yellow shirts would throw him out. And, you know, so, but he was there. You know, he's always interested, and he wanted to be a race car driver, and you know, I'm just a proud father right now. I just have kind of elapsed back to thinking of him as my little boy, but he's a full-grown man and one I'm very, very proud of. I can't say how proud I am to be associated with Richard and with Slugger and with the whole Childress organization. I'll tell you what, guys, you did this. You know, it's wonderful. I just thank you very, very much. And I think this is a good win for the Speedway of the town of Indianapolis, and by God, I hope we're back here next year sitting right here again.
Okay, while we're waiting for Paul, we'll take a couple questions. Susie has the mic. State your name and who you're with, please. Go ahead.
Bruce Meyer with SportsIllustrated.com. This is one for Richard and one for Paul. Richard, back in the 80s and the 90s, the guy sitting right next to you was trying to get an American-made engine to win the Indianapolis 500. How much did you kind of follow what he tried to do? And, a lot of times he had a very fast engine. And, talk about the efforts that John had made trying to get a win here in the Indy 500.
Well, I mean, he has put up a great effort to win here at Indy, and I think John did. We have a car together one year with Robbie. I think we did.
Run a little short of fuel, Richard.
Yeah, we had enough today though. But I've known John for many years and known his family and the passion he has for the sport, and to win today was just unbelievable for the Menard family, and to have Paul pull it off. Like he said, he was one of those young kids slipping around watching, had a dream, and today his dream came true.
And, John, all those years that you invested into the, Buick V6, and, you won some poles, and, but whatever would happen, the engine just probably wouldn't be there at the end of the race. How satisfying is it to finally claim a win here?
Well, it's really satisfying to have one that doesn't blow up, and we really got to thank everybody in the engine shop for that, because we worried about that here. But yeah, it's really satisfying to see Chevrolet, General Motors in the winner's circle. It's just totally gratifying. It's after years of trying to do that, and the success we didn't have with those. So, but by God, we were fast.
Let's hear from our race winner now. Paul Menard, driver of the number 27 Nibco Menard Chevrolet, wins his first career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series win at none other than the Brickyard 400 presented by BigMachineRecords.com. Paul, talk about the significance, your emotion of winning one of the biggest events in our sport.
Man, I've been coming here for a long time, but not nearly as long as my dad. And to be the first one after all these years of trying to win him a race at Indy, very special. 1989, I think, was my first year here. Spent 14, 15 years in a row just hanging out in the infield, being a fan. And 2007, got to race here. It was definitely the highlight of my career up until that point, and here we are in victory lane. It's unbelievable.
Open it up for questions again. Raise your hand. Susie has the wireless. Let's go here to Lee. Go ahead.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Talked a couple of weeks ago, and you said if there was any place that you could win, first time win aside, this was the place. Can you just talk about your childhood here, what your dad accomplished, watching Tony's championship and, just inevitably making the move with Slugger and, why that was the right decision going to Childress?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great drivers have driven for my dad. Johnny Rutherford, Herm Johnson is the guy that kind of got everybody started in racing. Got my dad started way back in the 70s, and a lot of great drivers. A lot of he's had a lot of great friends through the years from Indy, and one of them was Richard. Robbie and Richard, came up and met. I was in the meeting. We're at a little pizza shop or somewhere in Eau Claire, and had a meeting, and they wanted to put together an IndyCar program, and always kind of kept in touch ever since. I kind of went back and forth, and the time was right for 2011 to pull the trigger and get it done. And you can't thank Richard enough for kind of going out on a limb with me and allowing me to bring Slugger with. Slugger's he's a great friend. He works as hard as anybody in this garage, and he's won Daytona 500 now. He's won a Brickyard 400.
Dick Mittman. Paul, growing up here and being around from the time you were a kid, why is it chose to drive stock cars rather than Indy cars?
Well, that's pretty easy. Grew up in Wisconsin. There's no feeder series for Indy cars. You can't race Indy cars being in Wisconsin. There's a lot of short tracks, a lot of Legends cars, a lot of late models, and that's kind of what we got into. We started doing the go-kart thing for a lot of years. When I turned, I guess it was 15 or 16, we started racing Legends cars and hooked up with Brian Reffner. They started up, actually bought out Richard's truck team. He was selling his truck team, and Brian Reffner came in to drive that, and he let me drive his late model one race, and we wound up winning the heat race and finished like fourth or something, so we got a late model, started racing that. And, I mean, at one point we're racing, 3 or 4 nights a week. And that's just, Wisconsin short track racing.
Let's get a question over here, if we can, to Jenna, and then we'll go. Bob, did you have one? Okay, go ahead.
I have 2 questions. The first one, Jennifer, AP. Paul, you get a lot of flack because of your sponsorship. And Slugger had said earlier this year, he's like, that's not fair. He's not a kid with a silver spoon in his mouth. He works really hard. He puts in the time. He wants to be good at this. Does this make this more gratifying to you?
Yeah, I mean, we're winners in Sprint Cup, and that's a big deal. And to do it at Indy, even bigger deal. You can't change people's opinions. They're going to say what they want to say, and that's fine with me. We've we'll celebrate this, we'll enjoy it, and we're going to work hard for Pocono and try to make that chase. And whatever they say, you can't control it. I know what I'm capable of. I have total belief in Richard and Slugger and everybody, and we can. I think we can win a couple more.
My second question, I'm not sure who can answer this, but I was fascinated to listen over, I guess, the final 10 laps. Slugger seemed to be the only one talking. You were totally silent. When you cross the finish line, everybody erupts in celebration. You're like, that's the checkered, right? And
I didn't see it. I was looking at my fuel pressure.
We know that you're very quiet and you're very reserved by nature. What does it take to excite you? Like, what is an excited Paul Menard?
That's probably about as much emotion as you probably see out of me, but yeah, I don't know. I've just always been a low-key guy. It doesn't make it any less special. It's very special for me, but it's just something that we work hard for. Something that Richard expects us to win. He's won a lot of races, and just really gratifying that we can pull it through.
Has anyone seen any kind of emotion?
My dad has.
I've got him mad a few times.
Yeah, I've heard him. He'll get fired up on the radio occasionally.
Oh, I think I yelled at you today, didn't I?
Probably did. Yeah. Probably have. That's okay.
Paul, Bob Kravitz, the Indianapolis Star. How soon after the race did you find your dad? Do you remember the first thing you said to him? And just to follow that up, how much fuel did you have left?
I'm not sure about the fuel. I saw my dad as soon as we pulled into Victory Lane. He came up to the window, and I think I said something like, 35 years of trying, here you go, and this one's for you. So it's definitely for him. He's been trying, put a lot of time and energy into winning at Indy, and it's a big deal.
Kenny Bruce, SceneDaily.com. Paul, I was going to ask you about the gas situation, but how confident were you, those last 10 or 20 laps that you were going to make it to the end and that you were going to be able to hold everybody off? And then also you mentioned earlier at the end of the race that you were here for the inaugural Brickyard 400. What were you doing at that time?
Sitting up in a suite in turn 4 for the inaugural one, and saw Rick Mast win the pole. I think I was here the whole weekend. The one Skoll car won the pole, and I think Harry Gant was second, but
I think we were second.
Were you? Yeah,
you were. I think we hit the wall coming off the corner trying to lead the first lap with Earnhardt.